Christopher Luxon, Canada's Justin Trudeau and Australia's Anthony Albanese have this morning issued a joint statement on Gaza. They're stopping short of calling for an immediate ceasefire. Instead, their wording is to support an urgent international effort towards a sustainable ceasefire. They say this cannot be one-sided. Hamas must release all hostages, stop using Palestinian civilians as human shields and lay down their arms. They also say there is no role for Hamas in the future governance of Gaza. This is in slight contrast to some within the Labor Party who say that it should be going further than that. The Labor leader, Chris Hipkins, is with us this morning, Leader of the Opposition. Good morning.
Good morning.
What do you make of that statement from the three leaders?
I think it's probably a positive step. I mean, the work towards negotiating a joint statement with those other leaders started during the time that I was Prime Minister. I think it's good if we can be on the same page as them. But I do think there's room for New Zealand to go a bit further than that as well. I mean, the position of the present government seems to be that we should call for a ceasefire once there's already a ceasefire. I think actually, if you look at the humanitarian tragedy that's unfolding day by day, I think the world needs to show a bit more leadership and say, no, actually, we're not going to wait for the preconditions for a ceasefire to be there. We actually think there needs to be urgent action taken to secure a ceasefire.
What, aside from obviously the tragic human suffering that's going on, is there other information that you're using to inform your position that Canada, Australia and the New Zealand government is not?
Well, no, I think everybody can see the images on the TV news at night. The position that the leaders who signed the statement appear to be taking is that you can't call for a ceasefire until both sides are willing to talk about a ceasefire. I don't think that's a sustainable position because neither side are willing to talk about a ceasefire at the moment. That doesn't mean that the world shouldn't be demanding one.
So you're being critical here of Canada and Australia too?
Oh, no, those countries make their own decisions. I'm being critical of the New Zealand government. I think we could go further.
But implicit in that is a criticism of their positions because they all agree on theirs together, right?
As independent countries with independent foreign policy, they're free to take whatever decisions that they want, as is New Zealand. And I think our position should be a stronger one than the one we have at the moment.
All right. When you were in government as Prime Minister, caretaker Prime Minister, we were talking about designating or the potential to designate the Hamas political wing as a terror entity because we already do that for the military wing of Hamas. Did you ever get advice back on that and what did it tell you and is action being taken?
I commissioned advice on that before the election to arrive for the new government after it was sworn in. At that point, of course, not knowing who the new government was going to be, hoping it would still be us. But that advice would have been given to the new government after they were sworn in, so I haven't seen that advice myself.
Oh, OK. All right, let's move on and talk about the speed limits. We've had the Minister of Transport on the show this morning talking about removing the requirement for blanket speed reductions on our roads so that the local councils, local authorities don't have to make changes by early this year. Do you think that's going to have a material impact on the speeds at which we drive?
I narrowed the work that they were doing to the 1% of the riskiest roads in the country because, there are in some cases safety reasons for lowering speed limits to keep more people alive, to stop innocent people being injured. The fact that they're now they appear to be doing away with that as well means that, it's possible actually that we'll end up with more people being injured or dying on our roads. Having said that, Waka Kotahi make these decisions independently. The speed limits get set by them, and I'm sure they'll continue to do that independently.
Before the election, National told us that they would use savings from not doing the blanket speed reductions to help pay for the pothole fund. They're now telling us that it will actually cost us money to stop doing the blanket speed reduction plan rather than save us money. Are you starting to worry about a potential hole or pothole in the pothole fund?
Well, I mean, the reality is a lot of the commitments that the National Party put before the electorate during the last election were just, purely out of fantasy land. Their numbers didn't add up before the election, and they're getting worse after the election as they realise that a whole lot of the things that they promised people that they said were going to save money or weren't going to cost money actually all do cost money. And day by day, they continue to make more commitments without actually identifying how much it's going to cost. One of the reasons that we have a process, and it's a boringly named process, it's called a regulatory impact statement. So when you're going to make a law change or change something in regulation, you actually have to analyse how much that's going to cost. They've now just dispensed with that requirement altogether. So they're making all these decisions without knowing how much they're going to cost. I think Nicola Willis is going to have a massive headache putting together her first budget, because on a day-to-day basis, ministers keep making these huge spending commitments on her behalf.
Yeah, but to be fair, you all do that when you come in, don't you? You suspend the RIS.
No, we did not do that.
Didn't you?
We did not do that. And the only time we suspended that requirement was during the COVID-19 pandemic response, when we were making urgent decisions, pretty big urgent decisions that had to be taken with haste.
So you never, either the previous Labor government or the one before it that was in with Winston and the Greens, neither of those times did you suspend the RIS right after the election?
Nope, we didn't.
Oh, okay. I have my impression of that wrong. Hey, it's coming up to 8 o'clock, which means we're coming up to news, which means this is our last interview with you, Chris, before we break for Christmas. Can I just say thank you very much for coming on our show every week. You've been on either as Prime Minister or Leader of the Opposition. We do appreciate it, and we've had some good debates, we've had some laughs, and I hope you've enjoyed yourself. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you guys too. I hope you get a good break, and we'll see some of you in the new year and some of you, a bit like us, in different capacities next year. So good luck with that, Ryan.
The old switcheroo. Hey, we do have a... Yes, we've got a gift.
I've got a present. Oh, very good. Thank you.
We've done calendars this year. Feel free to open it. We've done calendars with a wee picture for you.
With a wee picture for me. You want me to open it live on air? Oh, this is the first time I've opened a present live on air. So, oh, look at that. Would you look at that? Oh, sausage rolls, sharkies, cap. What more could you want?
We thought it was something that you would want to remember from this year.
Yeah, it's certainly something we remember.
It in my office.
Hey, have you stopped eating sausage rolls now? Because at home, my partner was getting concerned for your health.
I'm actually back into them again. The election kind of sausage roll overload is now worn off, and it's just in time for Christmas party season. Sausage rolls and what do they call them? Saveloys. Fantastic.
Saveloys? What are you, 12?
I do not want to come to your Christmas day.
I have been attending a few kids' birthday parties just recently, and it brings back all those great memories.
That'll do it. Thank you very much, Chris. Great to have you on the show this year, and really appreciate your time this morning as well. That is the Leader of the Opposition, Chris Hipkins.